Sorry about that. Could press one if you can hear me. Just let me know that you with me and that you can hear my voice loud and clear. Because tonight I've come on here to talk about anxiety and what it does. Right now, oh, and I'll just let you know in no way, shape, or form is this medical advice. So let me go ahead and give a disclaimer in advance. This is not medical advice. This is not to be used as medical advice. This is strictly how I deal and others that I know deal with anxiety. So, with that disclaimer, we're going to get it rolling. But anxiety in today's world, we live in a very uncertain world right now with a lot going on around us, just in general. And many of us feel alone in this world. We may have family, we may have friends, we may have different people that we look to, but ultimately, we still feel alone. And that's not because we are alone. It's because we have individualized and compartmentalized certain issues that go on in our life because sometimes and somehow we feel that other people can't feel our emotions. And there's a lot going on. So that's why anxiety is such a big thing to talk about because many people don't know that there are others like them out there. Anxiety is one of the most common, um, I won't call it an illness, but anxiety is very common in today. It is said that over 40 million Americans suffer from anxiety. Now, there are numerous reasons why. Our fight or flight senses have kind of gone out of whack. It used to be predator or prey, hunt, kill or be killed. These were very simple terms to live by, but it doesn't seem like it's that simple anymore. Now you have stressors, you have things that raise your cortisol, your bills, what's coming next, your children, loved ones, car payments, rent, everything that comes with living in this country. And it becomes stressful. And many people don't know how to deal with that stress. A lot of people don't even know if there's a way out. So we've been taught, just as people in general, you fight your own battle, which is weird because we were always taught that it takes a village to raise a child. But it also takes a village to help an individual because, in one way or another, we still have these instincts and we're still growing because this world is so foreign to us. At least to me, I'll only speak from my perspective. But this world is very, very foreign. I don't quite understand it as many don't. The simpler things in life, hunting, fishing, beauty, these things are neglected on a regular basis. But then you look at what's compiled on the anxiety, the stress, the anger, the rage, the things that are presented to us in our day to day life. It could be from social media, it could be from, our phones, it could be family members and friends. We never know where it'll come from. And feeling like individuals who need to help others, sometimes you can pile stress on. When you can pile this stress on, it gets to you really fast. These things are what goes into living a very anxious life because you don't know what's coming next. We've been stuck in what's going on in this world. Like I said, I can still say it's foreign. But what's going on is the energy that we have and the energy that we've built up, we're not able to exert it. Get it out into gardening, having fun, running around, doing specific things that you enjoy doing. If you look at it from a realistic standpoint, you're supposed to work 8 hours a day. Supposed to. I'm not saying everyone does. Some people work way more. But if you do an 8-hour work day, then you are supposed to sleep for 8 hours. You have 8 hours to do what you want to do. That's not necessarily true. You have something called a circadian rhythm. That is governed by daytime and nighttime. Each animal has it. Some animals are nocturnal, some animals are by daytime. But of course, this becomes a stressor on us. Our natural body wants to be up in the mornings, go throughout the sunrise, and then when the sun sets, rest and relax. That's part of our nature. We've been forced to go beyond that, especially those who work third shift jobs have more anxiety than most, only because that they are going against what the body wants and what the body needs. So we find that anxiety tends to build up on each individual differently, and each individual handles it differently. I know some people who said they have never experienced anxiety, and it blew my mind. And I was just like, wow, to have that freedom to never experience anxiety. But deep down, did I believe them? And the answer is no. Because ultimately, there's some form of anxiety that floats around, whether it's their job, their home life, any of the above. But we don't get to exert the necessary energy. We don't get to take in as much sunlight as we should. And coming with the winter months, people have seasonal depression. That's a big one right now. I have a cousin, she works in the medical field, and she says during this current season, anxiety and depression is at an all-time high, not only from the change in the seasons, but so many people having to be inside the house. Now, as people, I'm going to touch on something that that most people say is a touchy subject, and I believe it is. The fact that we no longer necessarily have an outlet. That is huge. An outlet, like being almost childlike, to where we're able to do numerous things, to have that freedom, that peace of mind that we don't have anymore, only because we're so stressed out, wondering what the world has for us. The world is full of beauty. The world is full of life and imagination. There's always something to bring forward. There's always something to press for. But in our day-to-day life, it seems like it's a trap, and most people really don't feel like they can get out. And that's where the boiling point comes in. When you get so built up with all the stress around you, with all the depression around you, with everything going on, from the elections to the toxins being put in the earth to reality TV shows, all those things that we pay attention to subconsciously play a role in our day-to-day, ultimately creating stress. Stress in itself is hard to deal with. Now, when we look at cortisol levels, when you look at what's incorporated in stress, it will break your body down. As far as cortisol, the body really doesn't know how to adapt to stress very well, not in the amounts that we take it in as. That's why I was speaking about the fight or flight. When it comes to fight or flight, you either A, you run, or B, you fight. But there are certain instances, especially now, there are things you want to run from, but we can't. For instance, our bills. Everybody wants to run from their bills if they could, but they're not going anywhere. So therefore, that's a constant stressor every month. You pick that up, constant stress, constant stress. And that adds on month after month, year after year. And then when you get stuck and when you're trapped in your own mind, that's when you really begin to sink. And some people are good at finding a way out, others not so much. But you can put yourself in your own mind and think yourself into a depressed state. What I'll tell you is not your fault. The economy, everything going on right now. I'm not necessarily going to get into conspiracy theories because if I do, I'll go on all night. But a lot of this stuff is planned. When you look into the medical field and you look into science, the quickest thing to do for someone who's depressed is prescribe them a pill. Not to get you someone to talk to, not to get you someone to speak with, not to get into a group or get to people who can understand what you're going through. Separation is great when it comes to all that, to be honest with you. Because when you're able to separate people, they feel like they're alone. When they feel like they're alone, they become depressed. And when they become depressed, you prescribe them a drug. The drug never handles the symptoms, it only masks them. So think about it. And for each drug that's prescribed, it seems like they have to prescribe another one just to get you back to where you need to be. So it's prescription on top of prescription. I don't take those. I prefer different outlets: running, boxing, yoga, exercise, to try and get that energy out. But understand, it's the energy, because the only enemy is actually the inner me. And if you think about that and really realize you can be your own worst enemy, your brain can be your own worst enemy. There are many different things that can turn you against yourself, and it's not intentional. It's just the fact so much misplaced stress. The pharmaceutical world is banking on people to lose their minds because it's a quick fix and it's easy money. They do double-blind placebo tests. They do multiple tests to figure out what works and what doesn't. And most medication is completely mental. So when dealing with that, you tend to deal in a realm that most people don't know about. So you have to figure out how to structure yourself, release stress, and make it through the day. But the days seem to become harder and harder as we're forced to go against our nature, what's natural to us. Working at night, losing the daylight, being away from loved ones, not being able to spend time. They always tell you you need to have a work-home relationship. The problem is it actually needs to be reversed. There needs to be a home, then work relationship. They tell you put work first. But if you don't structure your life and you don't structure the good things in your life, it's kind of hard to make it through the day. When you go home and you take your work life home, you're just interrupting what's going on in your house. And that is what causes the anxiety and the stress. And that's why we need to help each other. Not only just with an emotional, not only just emotional, but mentally, we need to help each other. Being able to know that you have someone that has your back and someone who goes through the same things as you can do so much for a person. It's actually powerful to be able to know that someone somewhere is going through the exact same thing you are. It makes you feel like you're not alone. And that is actually the best part of it. Knowing you're not alone, knowing you're not the only one suffering, knowing you're not the only one going through this, but there is a better day. There's a better way. And then there are people who have panic attacks. Now, when people deal with anxiety, there's stress, depression, anxiety, and then you can get to panic attacks. There are some people who are very familiar with these. Panic attacks are, it's a different world. It really is, depending on the person and how deep it goes. Sometimes on an individual basis, some people speak of they feel like, just gloom and doom. Other people feel impending doom. Others say they can go through them with ease. But mental health is something that's it's overlooked because people want to neglect the fact that they have any imperfections, that there just might be something that is wrong. And I'm not saying completely mentally, only because when we look at the mentality of the world, if you think of anything separate, you are different. It's your problem. This is your mental state. So those who have conspiracy theories are considered, not quite right. But what is a conspiracy theory? Sometimes your mind needs to travel. Sometimes you need to look into different directions, because if everything was straightforward, then with all reality, it wouldn't be just right there. And that is the truth. Not many people know what pharmakia really is. Pharmakia is the cutting of roots, used specifically for spells. It was something that was brought down by the fallen angels. Now, when you dig into that and you begin to look up the fallen angels and certain aspects of what goes on with that, once again, that's a completely different realm. But pharmakia was meant for a specific type of magic. But the world, how it's changed, what's gone on, the things we look at on a day-to-day, you have to know that you are important. You have to know that you are worth your time, that tomorrow will be a better day, that you have to make the best of what you can today. No matter where your mind goes or where your mind travels, you really have to know that you're worth it, and don't let the world beat you down. Not because of what you look like, not because of who you are, not because of your weight or your hairstyle, not because of the way you dress or anything, because there is no norm currently, and these things build up anxiety. You be you. When people feel better being themselves, the anxiety melts off. Don't be so stressed on what the rest of the world thinks about you. But that's tough because that's what we're taught. We're taught that pay attention to what the world says. You have to be like everyone else. Follow and be a mindless drone. Well, some people want to be different. Some people want to enjoy who they are, reflect their style, reflect their individuality. But once again, this will wrap you back up in anxiety because you're worried about what other people think. So therefore, individuals become sheep who are being led straight to the slaughter. And that, my friends, once again, is a terrifying thing. There's a lot in the world that we don't understand. And I'm not going to act like I do, because I'm still trying to figure out everything on a day-to-day. Wise man once told me, wake up and live every day like a child. Because a child sees the beauty in the day, but an adult already has the day planned. So you have to live a little sporadic. But when you've already got everything planned out for your day, and then something goes awry, one of your plans goes astray, something happens, all of a sudden that throws you off. So now you're wondering, oh, stuff, what's going on? And there we go, back into the spiral of anxiety again. Only because we have preset plans for specific times. So we sit down and we try to overanalyze the day because we know we don't have enough time in the day between work, sleep, school, children, whatever else you have in your daily life. People have a lot going on, and there is not enough time in a day to fit it in because it has been structured around being, for lack of better words, a puppet. You go to work, you clock in, you clock out for lunch, you do this, you do that, you eat fast food, you do all these other different things. And that's how it's been structured. It seems like even the school system today was made for children to become warehouse workers. Look at how school is structured. You go, sit down, listen, respect authority. You get your lunch break, you go back, you do it all over again. So it's been structured just like a job. Things that kind of make you think. So overall, just being able to look at who you are, being able to break that cycle, being able to get rid of that anxiety. Because in my personal opinion, we weren't meant to work like this for what we get. We weren't meant to spend our money on trends that they come out with regularly just to force us in order to spend so they can get monetary gain. So if you don't have the flyest shoes, you're looked at differently. If you don't have the freshest clothes, you're looked at differently. Well, there are some people who can't afford that. There are some children around the world who don't even know where their next meal is coming from, let alone how they're going to look fly. So now children are starting to experience anxiety. These children are feeling almost as much, if not more, anxiety than adults because they have to keep up. That's what's been dictated to us. How you should dress, walk, work, the things I brought up earlier. But if you look around at everything that actually puts anxiety on you, anxiety and stress, I want you to sit down for a minute and just think about those things. Write down a checklist if you need to. Sit down and write a list of the things you want to do with your loved ones and check them off. Kind of make a bucket list. And go out and enjoy. Because there's a lot of life out there. But because we pass it up every day, or we're too tired, or we've worked too hard, well, make some time. Make a little extra time. Take that extra day off. Statistically, they say that 40% of Americans will actually skip their day off, and they'll try and turn their time in to get more money. But how does that time reflect that lost time for those dollars? You can't buy a minute back. But for that time, you get stress, you get anxiety, but you don't get a release. And especially with the Rona going on, anxiety is at an all-time high. People are panicking. People don't know how to smile. People are stressed, and they're pushing that anxiety out on everyone else. That stress, that depression. But that's what people need to do, is take the pressure off, decompress, go out and do yoga, get a breath of fresh air, go for a walk, seek peace. This world has gotten so ugly and nasty that no matter where you turn, if you turn on the news, if you turn on reality TV, if you turn on 50,000 of the different news channels that they have, if you go on to Facebook, if you go on social media, Twitter, or whatever else, you see a lot of anger, a lot of pain. And then you absorb this, you take this in, and then people expect you to just be fine, when they've sat there and put this stuff out there specifically for the purpose that they want. When's the last time anyone's ever sat back and just watched a whole episode of Good News? How many kids graduated, or how beautiful the world is? You know, they don't speak about all the good that's going on, because then that makes it easier to alleviate the good that's actually out there. When people don't see it and all they see is the negative, then that helps promote negativity. Just look around and don't look at what we absorb. Look at what the children absorb in their day to day. Kind of going to go on a tangent here. Now, if you look at how music has changed, and different people have very different feelings on that, but look at how music has changed in general. Like, look at how music is composed now. They promote drugs, violence, everything else. It's not like I got nothing against it. It's just when you have a younger generation who is constantly listening to it, sometimes the children don't know how to distinguish fantasy from fact. And a lot of these kids take these rappers for face value. So now they feel like they need to be like them, but not understanding that there's a prison system created for them, that a lot of it is brainwashing, that they put it out there in mass media. They put it out there that you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, and E, but ultimately it leads to a charge. So when they get these charged, they fill up the prisons, and that's why a lot of the positive rap is now gone. That's a whole nother subject, but that also fuels the fire. We're living completely against our nature. All these jobs and businesses and things we have to do, it's against who we really truly are. We don't even get enough rest in the night because we're worried about what's going to go on tomorrow. That's become a habit, and they're harnessing this negative energy. They're pressing the negative energy out there. There are other diseases that I believe has cures, but ultimately there's no money in a cure, but there's a lot of money in masks, because as long as you can mask the symptom, they don't have to cure it. So you have to get to the root of the problem. And I'm not just speaking on anxiety and depression. I'm speaking on the way that the world is right now. They say the love of money is the root of all evil. I honestly believe that. The stuff people do for money, but money will also cause anxiety and depression, lack thereof, or too much. Because no matter how much money you make, it won't buy a good night's rest. Because you have to have a clear mind when you go to bed. You have to be in a relaxed state. You have to put yourself in a calm place and get rid of all the anger of the day. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. When you go to rest, rest. Whether you get a cup of tea, you do breathing exercises, you do different things to get your mind to actually wind down to the point where you can relax. That makes a big part of your life. If you don't get a good night's sleep, then you're not going to have a good rising. And these things are important, but we neglect our sleep. Little do we know, by neglecting sleep, the time that the body needs to regenerate, especially the brain. REM sleep. And there are specific sleep cycles that the brain goes through. That's why they tell you need 6 to 8 hours on average, depending on the cycles. The cycle of the brain can go for, I believe it's an hour and a half is the general cycle. After that cycle, it goes back once, twice, 3 times, however many throughout the night. But that's what helps you rejuvenate, what helps you feel good. But if your brain doesn't get to rest, your body doesn't get to rest, you start to develop certain diseases. Dis-ease, when your body is out of ease and out of whack. Once again, going against your circadian rhythm, going against the way the body's supposed to feel or react. This is important, but not many people study it. Being able to sit down and understand yourself and know thyself, not just from a perspective of outside, but who truly are you on the inside? What makes you you? What do you like to do? It's very frequent when you ask someone what they like to do and you hear, I don't know, because many people no longer know themselves. They don't know who they are. They don't know what makes them. Some people don't even know their favorite color because they've never taken the time to sit down and think about it. There's a lot of stress going on in the world right now. And that's the last thing I want to add to, and I believe any of us need to add to, is the stress. But go out and help someone. Go out and spread kind words. Be the change and be that ripple effect. Be the person you want to be. Because when it's all said and done, you have to be secure with yourself. The most common thing in hospitals are something like a deathbed confession. So many people regret the things that they didn't do out of love and getting out and enjoying and the time that they could have spent with a loved one, because once it's gone, is gone. Being as men, women, people of this country, we're not given enough time to mourn. We're not given enough time to mourn not just loved ones, but the loss of many different things. For instance, if someone outside of an immediate family member passes away, God forbid, you have to go to work the next day unless you take a day off. There is no grievance period or a time to mourn or a time to sit down and realize that you need to get that off your chest. So you compile that onto what you already have. So when do we have time to mourn? When do we have time to understand or decompress? And then they wonder why people have anxiety and panic and different things like this, is because we don't have enough time. And this for me is true. This for many that I know is, it's very true. Like I said, 40 million Americans have anxiety. 40 million. But yet each one of those 40 million feels alone. How does that work? Because now we've been taken away from our tribe. And when I say tribe, I don't mean from that specific standpoint, the individuals who create a group that holds us up, the group that makes us feel better, not the ones that put us down or beat us down or destroy us, but the ones who tell you what you're capable of and how great you are. There's enough people who can tell you what you can't do, but how many people are actually reinforcing what you can do? How many people are telling you how great you are? Not ones who want to put you down or belittle you to make themselves feel better, but individuals who are there to push you every step of the way so that when you reach your goal, they're there watching and applauding. This is what needs to be shared, not with the community, but in its entirety. We need to be pushing each other, because with enough people pushing, there's nothing in front of us that we can't break down. And if you can't break it down, trust me, there's always a way to go around it, climb over it, or dig under it. But any obstacle can be defeated. But when we think we're the only ones, then we get stressed out again. We get beaten down. When you think you're the only one pushing the mountain and no one's behind you, you feel like it can't be done. But when you have a whole force behind you, constantly pushing, rooting you on, it makes you feel like you can do anything. And that's what we need to know, that we can do anything. We need to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And with the faith of a mustard seed, we can move mountains, because when we come together, there's nothing that can't be done. It's just there's so many people going so many ways. Eventually, just sitting down and having a discussion, being around the ones who you love, the ones who you enjoy, getting that helping hand. I could go on all day about the problems of the world, but I'd rather look at the good things. If you spend so much time focusing on the evil, then how do you really know what's good? That is where the struggle lies. I know I started speaking about anxiety, but there's so many aspects to anxiety in this world. There's so much that goes on in this world. But that's what we need to be able to discuss. We need to be able to sit down and understand and pass on the beauty and the knowledge, because there's something bigger than just us. When they say an individual is self-centered, honestly, that's how most people are. Why? Because everything you know is centered around you. And don't take that the wrong way. I'm being literal. You are the center of your own individual universe. So when you look back, forward, left, or right, you are still the center. But people say, oh, come out of the box. The box is very hard to come out of. Putting yourself in another person's shoes is very hard to do, but we can explain our situations and we can have empathy for each other. That's how people learn to become empathetic, is we enjoy each other. We enjoy what we're doing. We enjoy learning about each other. We enjoy pushing each other and accomplishing things. I can't hate on somebody for doing something that I couldn't accomplish. That just means you've shown me how to accomplish it. You've shown me how to be a better me. You've guided and you've laid the foundation for me to walk on. I can't hate that. All I can do is say thank you. And even if you fail at it, then that means let's try it together. Because this isn't necessarily a race. Some people may believe it is, but this isn't necessarily a race. There are competitions in different things, but you can't compete to save the earth. That has to be something that everyone has to do. And until we clean up this earth, we will not be clean. And when I say clean, the stress and everything that's put into everything, the food, the water, if you look at, we can get into the GMOs and the whole 9 yards, but I'll get off topic. But that's it. You really have to be able to sit down and release the anxiety and the stress. And many people want to act like they're not faded by it. Yeah, I've seen some of the toughest cats crumble to stress, PTSD, couple different disorders. I've seen different vets come back from the military. And that's something that goes on. So they have to find a coping mechanism. But I noticed that when a lot of military vets come back, they feel like they're alone, even though there were many soldiers who were there with them. The same way goes in our life. And not just that, but in the streets. In the streets, when you're out there, you're doing your thing, you try to come out of it. There's a lot going on. And I'm not talking about hustling or anything like that, but I'm just saying when you live in the streets, when you live at a certain point and you come out of that and you get to, a place of well-being, there's anxiety that you're going to lose it. When you find a loved one or when you find a true friend, there's that fear and that anxiety you're going to lose them. When you get that one thing or that car you want, once again, there goes the anxiety. Ultimately, because we fear losing the object of our desire, whether it be material or physical. But from a spiritual point, how many times do we really stress that? So, like I said, I could go on for a long period of time and jump from subject to subject because let's be honest, I'm a very disorganized person. But ultimately, I just come on here to bring peace. No more strife, you know, because all that anxiety just wears on you, and there's no need for us to have all that wearing down on our spirits. That's the main reason I got on here, is because there is a such thing as anxiety, and there are people who need to deal with it, and we need to come together and understand who we are as a people. And when I say a people, I'm not being specific. I'm meaning people. Everyone on this planet has to take part in cleaning up. But there goes me, going off again. So, to all those with anxiety, depression, stress, PTSD, anything else you may have, you're not alone. But you also need to let other people know that they are not alone. All of us can lay a foundation that many people can stand on. We can make a foundation where we could build anything we wanted to, build beautiful structures. But we can't have a weak foundation because then it will all crumble. So come together, got to have a lot of love out there, got to have a lot of positive energy, got to have peace. We have to care for what we have because we are temporary. But that goes into the 7 generations. And we can't stake claim on something permanent when we are temporary. But that's a topic for another discussion. But I hope everyone enjoyed, and sorry for holding everyone up. I just hope this gets around and those with anxiety and stress, they know they're not alone. That us as individuals, even though people want to be strong, just because you have anxiety and depression doesn't mean you're weak. Everybody needs a break sometimes. Everybody needs to get away. But everyone needs to know there's a foundation. And if you don't have it, then you will crumble. And the mind is a terrible thing to break. Once it's gone, it takes a while to heal and come back. So, we have to just enjoy. And I do thank everyone once again for coming. It definitely does help out. We all feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. Sometimes we need somebody to kind of grab those weights and lift them up just a little bit for a little bit of time. Everybody needs breathing room. And that's real. Don't take on the weight of the world because it can be distributed equally. And all of us can hold it up. Because one person trying to do it all doesn't do anything but beat that person down. And while that person is sitting there holding up the world and everyone's just doing what they do, they never know how tired that one person got. So when you're out there, try and take the burden off of somebody else. Try and sit down and talk to them. Let people understand that they're not alone in this world. And I can't mention that enough, because we all have our separate ways. And with technology and everything else, it's meant to separate us, but don't let it. Don't let it break you down and make you weak. Sometimes unplug, and you'll realize a lot of this anxiety strictly comes from the things that we place on ourselves and the society that we have been forced into. This isn't placed, this is forced. Because if you don't work, you don't eat. And that's kind of how it goes. So please, those who feel like you do have too much anxiety, find others, find groups, find ways to cope. Those who are dealing with depression, those who are dealing with not being able to mourn a loved one or a friend or someone who passed, who feels like you're still holding on to it. Find a way to figure out how to let that go, how to be better, and how to de-stress and decompress. Find a way to be happy, truly happy, spiritually happy, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Whether it's meditation or however you choose to do it. But enjoy your life, because we only get one. And if you don't enjoy this and you're stressed your entire life, you're going to have so many regrets on why you weren't happy. So just wanted to say thank you for stopping in. Much love to everybody. I hope you enjoyed the build, and I'll see you guys next time. Once again, I apologize for being so sporadic, but just remember, de-stress, show love. Let's create that foundation, because the next generation is going to need it. If we keep going this way, it can't get any better. So I'll holler at everybody. Good night. I'm about to do my chamomile tea and relax. So everyone stay blessed, and I will see y'all later.